Well, hello everyone, and how are you doing? I'm still getting used to my new work schedules and preparing things. I need to plan a little better, but this is a show and I'm doing two things at once because I am multitasking because things just get so crazy around here. So give me 1 second because I do need to share something here that I'm going to need for this show that I was preparing on another computer right here. Multitasking. Hello, Doc Sexy, and Kaylor, and Diana, and Mike. How are you all doing? Where is this file? This is so crazy. Oh, I know why it's not showing up. You know what? We will just skip it for this time. And hello, Anthony. So we've got a LPCO Colorado, LP of Colorado Town Hall at 8. So that will limit the amount of time that I can ramble. But you know, I've wanted to do the show and I've been waffling back and forth because really I want to be over this period, and this may be like even the last show I do on this topic. There might be a couple more that I need to do, but really, like, I'm looking to Reno, I'm looking to other things. But after the meeting this weekend and just seeing some of those people again, yeah, Eric, we all want to move past it. And thank you. I'm glad I saw your name there because I do need to give this disclaimer. When I say quote unquote the LNC, it means the body. It doesn't mean everybody on the body. For instance, I'm not referring to Eric Radsup. I'm not referring to the good ones whom you all know. I am referring to the bad ones whom you all know. Remember, when I used to criticize the LNC, I was still on it. I obviously wasn't referring to myself when I said that we weren't speaking out about COVID lockdowns, because I was. But it's a collective body, so you refer to them in the collective even if you're not referring to each and every single person. So, has the LNC as a collective engaged in fraud? Somewhat of a clickbait title, I will admit, because I want you guys to come to your own conclusions. But why am I even bringing this up? Because I am sick and tired of the slander of some of those people against me, where they're trying to justify their, what was just a supermajority decided to gang up on a minority they didn't like and manufacture reasons, and then cloak those reasons and things. And one of those things is they said I engaged in fraud. They are so lucky that I do not believe in libel laws or defamation laws. I always forget what's written, what's spoken, but they've both written it and spoken it, because I think they would be in big trouble. Even though proving defamation against a public figure is very, very difficult, when you're alleging actual criminal, potentially criminal activity, it's not as difficult. And I think I would win, because you want to know what they claim is fraud, and this should offend, absolutely offend the sensibilities of every single actual libertarian out there, whether or not they agree with things I said, because this really isn't even about me anymore. They claimed my opinions, which they don't think are true. Because they don't think they're true, that makes them fraud. So that means anytime any of you engage in an opinion which other people do not agree with, they could say you're fraudulent. That is so dystopian, I don't even know what to say. Now, can some things cloaked as quote-unquote opinion be, in the technical sense of the word in American law, fraud? Yes. If the person speaking them knows for a fact, or should know for a fact, or a reasonable degree of certainty that what they are saying is false. And they've never, ever alleged that about me. They just said what I am saying is speculative. I said when I said my opinions, they're speculative. So let me give you an example of something they are claiming is fraud so that you can see that the effect of this is just to silence people who disagree. And that is so anti-libertarian. For instance, there was a meeting that was going to be canceled in the midst of Richard Longstreth's vindictive removal motions against me, in which I said, I believe, it is my opinion, and it remains my opinion, that they are canceling this meeting because certain members of the LNC do not want to hear from the public. And that remains my opinion. That's not an unreasonable opinion. It's not anything that I know for a certainty is false, and it certainly is within the realm of possibility. That is not fraud. And for them to claim it is so pathetically disgusting. Now, if we're going to use that kind of standard, they're committing fraud against me every single day. But let's just look at the September 6th, and I'm not going to play clips because we have those. I'm just give you summaries. The September 6th meeting where Aaron Adams said things that were absolutely false about me that she should have known were false. I can't claim she knew they were false because I'm not going to get in her head. But she claimed that I had consistently in the past refused any other intervention other than suspension, which is false. I had agreed to mediation. I had agreed to a censure. She participated in those emails and meetings. Did she forget? Maybe. So I'm not going to say she intentionally lied. But before you make those comments about somebody else publicly, you should at least do your research. And then she said that I said members of the LNC were trying to make me commit suicide when I said the exact opposite. And when I challenged her on that in a phone call 2 nights before, she said, I just re-listened to it. That's what you said. And it isn't. I went and re-listened to it. And I played the clip on this show. So considering that she said, here's the thing. I don't believe she really re-listened to it the day before. I think she got defensive when I challenged her and pulled that out of her rear and said, I just re-listened to it. That's what you said. I think she was lying there. Because if she had re-listened to it, well, she had to be lying one place or the other. Because if she had re-listened to it recently, she would have known I didn't say that, which means she was lying at the LNC meeting. But I don't think she was lying at the LNC meeting. I just think she didn't do her diligence and said something that was false that she should have known better. That is textbook fraud. That's just one example. I could pull out some other examples there as well. But that one is pretty blatant. But I want to pull out something that I didn't before, because there was something that had been really bothering me about this whole thing. One sec. Man, I think maybe it's dust down here. And I will get to some comments in a moment. I want to first set up where I'm going, and then we'll do some comments. Excuse me. Now I drank too much soda. I'm sneezing. I'm a hot mess. What had really bothered me was Chris Lucchini, and I think John Wilford also made this comment, but I'm not 100% sure. Oh, and I did want to say, speaking of John Wilford, he personally apologized to me for what I regarded as his mocking of my claim to due process. I acknowledged and accepted his apology. I posted that he apologized to me on all my social media, and I am making it clear here as well, and that is the absolute last time it will ever be mentioned. I am a Christian. When someone comes to me and asks for forgiveness, I give it and I let it go. But I wanted everyone on this show to know as well, because not everyone is on my social media. So now that that's behind us, I think he also said this same thing, but I'm not 100% sure on this. And really, it's so painful for me to re-listen to that meeting. I'm not re-listening to it. But I know for a fact Chris Lucchini said this. You don't have a property right in this position. As if that had... Actually, I do, Chris. But that's as if that would have anything to do with due process. No, I do have a property right in that position. By any reasonable definition of property. Because it was given to me by the delegates, which you don't have a right to do, Chris, is ignore your region and be all patronizing in that way. But that comment by Chris has been bothering me for a while now. And I believe he said it again at the JC hearing. And at first, I only concentrated on that you don't have a property right in this position. And I do. But then I realized that isn't what was bothering me. Because, yeah, I think the LNC defrauded me of something I earned. That I spent a lot of my own personal money, which means they defrauded me of money, and time, which is worth money. But I finally nailed it the other day when I was like, that comment didn't even really bother me so much about me having a property right. You want to know who has a property right in me being in that position. The delegates who elected me. But not only them, my campaign supporters who donated money under the trust that I would not be removed for frivolous reasons or because a supermajority was able to gang up on me. That is who the LNC defrauded. And I'm going to give you an exact figure of their fraud, an exact number of people, because we are going to look up my my GoFundMe for my 2020 campaign, where it has the exact dollar amount that I raised. Before I continue on it, though, I want to get to some comments. One of which I'm not going to put up because I don't want to engage in potential defamation myself here, but I appreciate the thoughts. Oh, Doc Sexy said this. This does help. Slander and spoken both begin with... That does help. That'll help me now. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. And libel and letter, right? Both begin with L. Okay, I think that'll help me in the future. That's why I tend to just say defamation, because defamation covers them both. Now this, I agree with you. And in fact, public comment got cut off at the LNC meeting this weekend. Time ran out. Oops, so sorry. People travel and spend money to go to those meetings when they don't have to, and you cut off public comment. That is rude at a minimum. Entirely and utterly disrespectful of the members. So, okay, so back to what I was saying. Now, the excuse that the LNC gives to say that they didn't fraudulently remove me, which they did, and I hope they believe in defamation laws. Take me to court for this. I would love to get it all out, because I don't believe in them. To me, the way you respond to defamation is what I'm doing right now. You counter it. You counter it with more words. You don't counter it with the force of the courts. But I'll certainly defend myself if a believer in it tries to come at me. So they claim, well, we're not defrauding the delegates because the delegates gave us this power to remove. True, there is a power to remove in the bylaws. But I want you all to just step back now and get beyond the technicalities of this thing. Oh, thank you, Ryan S. You have a free super chat. I've never seen that happen before, but thank you for spending your free... yeah, check this out. I want to put this up if anyone else has seen anything like this. I've never seen free super chats. I wonder how that happens. with YouTube. Interesting, but thank you. Thank you so much. As I said, in the future, I'm going to try to, barring any like personal, financial disaster or something like that, the things I get from Super Chat and from Patreon from now to convention, I'm going to try to put towards my campaign. They always go towards show expenses and things like that. So I super appreciate it. So when it comes to the bylaws, we as libertarians sometimes just get really, really fixated on the letter of something when we're examining something and forget to step back into the context. And it's like when I do Bible interpretation. There are hyper literal readings of the Bible. And that's where you just get like overly autistic and you're just looking, and I can say that as an autist, okay? And you're just looking at just the letters and what do they mean without realizing the context in which they are written. And you can't interpret mere letters outside of context. That's called hermeneutics. Any scientist and it's a social science, any hermeneutical scientist will tell you that. And you know that. You can't interpret someone's words out of context. The same thing with our bylaws. They were written in a context. And the context is libertarians. And you have to take that into consideration when interpreting the bylaws. When you're interpreting when you're trying to decide between competing interpretations, you have to ask yourself, what is the one that's more likely for libertarians to have meant? Because that's who passed it. This shouldn't be anything controversial that I'm saying here. Now, knowing that, and knowing that delegates very often elect mixed LNCs, meaning they try to balance out viewpoints. Like, if there's a lot of more moderates, they'll try to throw in a radical or two. When there's more radicals, they try to throw in a moderate or two. Very rarely will you see an LNC that's dominated by one particular quote-unquote faction. This is intentional on the part of the delegates. And I think sometimes it's even done like to throw the other quote-unquote side a bone to keep everybody engaged. And that's a noble thing most times. So let's also take that into context. So with those two facts in mind, what do you think is a more reasonable interpretation of the bylaw that allows the LNC to remove an officer? For any reason that they say, or for gross misconduct, such as I always said, the classical case of a treasurer stealing from the treasury, or somebody getting up in the middle of an LNC meeting and beating the crap out of the chair, things like that. What do you think was more reasonable for libertarians to have meant? And you are a liar to yourself if you think that libertarians meant for any reason the LNC could dream up. Particularly when they know that oftentimes the minority that they elect in is less than 1/3. Do you think they really intended by that provision that the LNC could just cook up a bunch of charges of mean words so that the 2/3 majority could get rid of the 1/3 minority voice, which is what happened in my case? They didn't like my criticism. Do you think libertarians would think criticism is a valid reason to remove an officer? Do you think in interpreting that bylaw that is a power they intended to give the LNC? You are lying to yourself if you think so. And all of you 11 who are claiming that, you know you're lying to yourself. The fact is, the LNC does have to have limited removal power in case somebody does, like one of those things I just said. Or, as Diana pointed out, or somebody conspiring to overthrow an affiliate. That's also a very good reason for removing. Criticism is not, particularly when that criticism is about somebody doing a removable offense, like conspiring to overthrow an affiliate. So if the LNC stretched and lied to themselves to find a reason to remove a critic, that is fraudulent. And to try to claim that, oh, the delegates gave us that power, so we are honoring the will of the delegates, is obscene. And it's funny because the same people that are making that argument now, back when there was discussions about whether we should revoke the nominations of Gary Johnson and Bill Weld for their patently unlibertarian comments, what was the constant refrain from Nick and Valerie Sarwark and the whole moderate crew? You can't overturn the will of the delegates. Really? Could I have just turned around and said, but they gave me that power? No. We already knew they were hypocrites. And that's why I never supported a motion to remove Gary Johnson and Bill Weld's nomination, because I respected the will of the delegates. And I believed, and I still do believe, that the delegates knew full well what they were buying. Now, if Gary and Bill Weld presented themselves as these absolutely consistent radical libertarians, and that's what they got elected on, and then turned around and did bake the cake, and Hillary Clinton is a wonderful, public servant, then yeah, there would have been cause to remove, because they then lied to the delegates. But the delegates knew what they were buying. I don't have to like it. I respected the will of the delegates. When it comes to me, the delegates knew what they were buying. I said all of this in my campaign speeches. But the LNC disrespected and shat all over the delegates. And whatever contortions they can do to try to justify it doesn't make it not true. And anyone who sits back and examines this rationally, and you do not even have to like me or what I said, these are just the factual background. And if it can happen to me, it can happen to someone you do support if you don't support me. Would you like it if a bunch of radicals got in there and there were a couple moderates voted in, and just because we had a 2/3 we could cook up something? You wouldn't like it one bit. But now I'm going to pull up my GoFundMe, because we're going to put real dollars to this. And there were, and I could pull up by how many votes, how many people voted for me as well. Did you have a free super chat too, Mike? What's going on? Everyone checked. You got free super chats? This is a new thing to me. Okay, so in the background, wrong screen. I should have had this pulled up already, but again, I just pulled in the driveway like 2 seconds before having to get on live here. So I want to pull up my GoFundMe so that we can look at those figures. Okay, you didn't have a free one, so all right. But I appreciate the super chat, Mike. But I was just puzzled there for a second. I still want to know how Ryan got a free super chat. I'm gonna need to check that out when I'm listening to some creator to see if I can throw something their way as a surprise. So here is my 2020 campaign. And I realized I never thanked Sean Stevens from Alaska for a really, really generous donation she gave me. I don't know how that happened. But let me pull this screen up. And we're going to look at some of the names of people who were defrauded and the amount. And, okay. So this is my 2020 campaign. I raised $5,030. So the LNC defrauded my campaign contributors of $5,030, and all of the ones who had donated time. Now that's real money there. So yes, those people there who donated and paid money to get me in the seat, Chris Lucchini, do have a property right. They paid for it. So I want to go through this because, like, for instance, Sean Stevens, right before my election, donated $350. That's a lot of money that they just disregarded. Chris, you go tell Sean that she had no right to expect that somebody she believed in enough to donate. That's a big donation for an internal race. Did not have any kind of claim to me staying in that seat without your just butt hurt. Your butt hurt, so you removed me. You go tell that to Sean's face. She's a Region 1 member, Chris, who you're supposed to represent. So there's all kinds of names here. Sean donated multiple times. She definitely had a right to expect this. So, you know, we're not going to go through the whole thing. There was, but $5,030. Now, some of the people who supported me then don't support me now. And some of the people who didn't support me then do support me now. Because I saw a couple names on there that probably wouldn't support me now, and that's okay. They did then. And when they gave their time and their money, had every right to expect that the LNC would not abuse its power to defraud them. Yeah, you did see her name. She was specifically who I was referring to when I said some people wouldn't support me now. Yes. Yes. Susan Hogarth did support me. You want to know when she stopped supporting me? When I insisted we have a physical convention. There's something I had said, and I'm going to make a TikTok, I think, on this, because people laugh their ass off. COVID revealed who people really were more effectively than Mel Gibson on a bender. So yes, you did. And you want to know something? This is what's really funny about Susan Hogarth voting to remove me, because I have a monetized YouTube channel. Guess who my very first patron was? Susan Hogarth. And I was on the LNC at that time. Did she think she was engaging in fraud herself? Or aiding and abetting fraud? Or whatever it is that they think having a monetized YouTube channel does? She was my very first patron. Susan, remove yourself if that was wrong. So there's people then who wouldn't still support me, such as Susan. And there's people who did not support me then that do support me now after seeing what happened. As evidenced by the fact, and I'm going to need every penny of it because travel expenses have gone way up. I mean, we've all experienced the effects of inflation. I've raised now about 80% more than I did that campaign now, 6 months before the convention. That's how pissed off people are. So, try to tell me that the LNC didn't commit fraud. That I can put an actual dollar value to now. We can put actual names to. And yes, when you donate money to a campaign, and you donate time to a campaign, and your candidate wins, you do have a property right. And them keeping that seat that you worked and paid to get them elected for, absent something seriously removable. And no way libertarians think criticism and mean words are removable. You 11 committed fraud. And I wouldn't have even gone here if you didn't keep slandering me and libeling me. It may be unusual for a Christian to believe in karma. Maybe it's just God's justice, but I do. And though I don't wish it on you, one day it's going to happen to you, and you're going to look back and go, man, I really fucked her over. I fully expect at least half of those 11 one day to come to me and beg for my forgiveness. And because I'm a Christian, I'll give it. But don't thank me for that, because it's not me doing it. It's Christ in me that's doing it, because I don't want to forgive any of you. But I will. Just like I freely forgave John Wilford. But I fully expect about half of you will be doing that in days to come. Maybe years to come. What you did was evil. And it's evil no matter what happens at Reno. Unlike some of my supporters, I don't think I'm a slam dunk to win at all. I'm working my ass off to win. And if I don't, I don't. That's just life. That I can accept. Because those are the delegates. Those are the ones who have the right to make the decision. Not the LNC. We all lose. We all... If anyone who runs for positions a lot is going to win some and lose some. Just like when you're on a committee and you vote. You win some votes, you lose some votes. I don't get ass mad over that. But when people cheat and use subterfuge, like sneaking in David Sexton, yeah, I get mad at that. Because that doesn't matter if you were allowed to do it. That was just highly unethical. Ooh, Mike Seebeck says he's drinking a chocolate soda. That sounds delicious. Well, everyone, I so appreciate the super chats. And I hope if I interrupt the stream here by accident, it's because I'm switching to Wi-Fi midstream. So I'm going to just warn right now, if this ends, I love you all. If it doesn't, okay, I think we're good. I think I was able to switch it. Because I got to transfer a file, and I forgot you can only transfer a file over Wi-Fi using the Mac share feature. AirDrop, I mean. Yay! I don't know why it won't transfer like over Bluetooth. Maybe there's some setting I'm messing up. But I wanted to play my thank yous to my patrons. And CJ, who I was hoping would be in here tonight, let me know I misspelled his name. I can't tell you how many names I misspelled in that. So if you're one of my patrons, please look. And like, if I misspelled your name, please tell me so I can fix it. And I hope I fixed his name right. So CJ, if you watch this later, I hope I didn't mess it up again. But I did fix it, I think. So I wanted to transfer the new video file for my outro. So tomorrow night, everyone, I am going to go over the Delaware motion that passed at the LNC meeting. And give you all my... It actually won't be all of my feelings on it. I want to give you an outline of my feelings. But I'm not going to go into great detail on some points. You want to know why? Because I am not... any disagreements I may have had with it, the Delaware people are happy with it. Well, happy's the wrong word. The Delaware people were willing to accept it, and it's really up to them. And I'm not going to give talking points to the enemies of that affiliate. Maybe in the future I'll go over the points I disagreed with at, rather than just very broadly, maybe after convention or after the next Delaware convention. But I'm not going to do that now, because I am not giving talking points to tyrannitarian coup masters. Just not. But I'll give you my broad feelings. But bottom line, The language was approved by the legitimate Delaware representatives that were there, and that is their decision to make, not mine. Okay, everyone, there might be like a slight pause while I pull up this new video file that should have CJ's name right. So I will see you tomorrow. Mike, I will send you the link to the town hall, if I can find it, or invite you or do something. It was in an, you don't get the LPCO emails. You need to figure that out. Like, not you, we need to figure that out for you. Okay, everyone, let me pull up that file, and I hopefully will see you tomorrow. As always, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Let me find the file. Oh, that's not right. Let me find this file. Now you got the wide view. Choose file. You all seeing the inside operations here now. Okay, where'd it go? Did it get downloaded to my desktop? Desktop? It's, oh, it failed. Oh my God, why? Let's try this again. Okay, now it passed. You guys are really seeing the inside baseball here. All right, here we go.
Given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business, not because they want to